Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's Friday, June 12th. I'm your host, Jose Galison, and this is the kitty of the day, Violet, one of our preggers ladies over here. It was in question. She's another one, definitely pregnant. You can see that tummy, definitely looking kind of big. So we'll get some babies here soon in a few weeks. I think about a month or so. I forget exactly when she's due. But we should begin some babies here soon from her. She's a sweet lady, cute lady. That is Violet, one of the queens of the cattery. She's a good mama, and she makes pretty babies. But with that, for those who like seeing my hot takes Monday through Friday, typically around 11 a.m. Eastern. Wasn't here yesterday. I'm sorry. Had stuff to take care of. Couple minutes late today, but hey, almost on time. But that's why you need to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications. That way you can see when I'm going live and when I'm dropping new videos. And that way you can also see the kitty of the day. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine, it's a beautiful day. I am alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, everyone. Hoping you're having a good one. I hope you're having a productive morning. If not, we'll get started on that. I'll be honest, I'm not myself. Normally I try to get like a workout in or do something. I twisted my ankle yesterday, so taking it a little bit easy. Although I'll probably still do a little bit of a workout, but I'm going to have to take a little bit of a break from running and soccer every day like I've been doing. So yeah, twisted that sucker pretty good, but I think I'll be good back to normal here in a few days. Hope you guys are all doing good. Have plenty to talk about today. We'll start off as always, as we do with our icebreaker content of, more fun, funny, goofy, gen pop slop stuff of the like, kind of in that realm, kind of ease our way into the stream. And then we'll get a little bit more serious, go into the foreign policy mixing up segments. Foreign policy roundup, kind of get to the world of war, what's going on there. We have plenty to talk about there. Then we will get into Epstein Coverup exposed. Yeah, I know, a little bit of a clickbaity title, but I actually think it applies here. We have a couple Epstein things, the primary thing being an inside report from the White House of essentially how things were working with the cover-up, how they were managing it. So it'll be interesting. A lot of interesting stuff there. A lot to figure out what we think of it. And then we'll get into our ongoing dig we've been doing into the Tate expose piece, getting into part 3 of Tate's part of the Matrix all along. So, but with that, as you're popping in here, help a brother out, hit that like button. I do do a little housekeeping every day, remind you guys how this works. This is a dump. It's an info dump style show, as I like to call it. Just kind of dumping info on you guys. Not all of this stuff has just been processed that I've actually gone through. Today, there's a little bit, but most of the time it's kind of newer stuff. It's just an info dump. We're just kind of going through information together, kind of forming our thoughts on it. What does it all mean? It's a live experience, but I do try to accommodate for the non-live listeners, and I try to keep the chat, with the chat banter to the end of each segment, and I timestamp the segments. So all you gotta do is go down to your video or podcast description. If you don't want to experience the chat and you're catching it on the replay, just go down to the video podcast description. Most platforms have hyperlinks these days, so you just gotta click and boom, right on past it. or you may have to fast forward a little bit. And now for those who are here for the live experience, I do like to remind you guys, I try to give everyone at least one good morning. After that, you got to catch my interest or catch my wallet. But yeah, I think that's it. I think we're good on housekeeping. Let's go ahead and get into some icebreaker stories. Get into some of the goofy stuff. I was spotted again. Once again, I was spotted out there in the wild. In another viral video that I managed to get in that just doing the rounds. Here you go. Here is a video of someone kind of getting all uppity. I don't know all the context here, but and then I headbutt a man. So go ahead and check this out. See a dope ass headbutt.
You're spoiling for right here. Just leave our
Don't fucking threaten me.
No, go in.
What, you think you're Scottish? You think you're
stop.
bad? I'll fuck you up.
Hey, look! Oh, fucking hell.
Oh.
Don't threaten me.
Go on.
Don't fucking threaten me.
I'll put a fucking standard up. You up.
Hey, look! Oh, fucking hell.
A good fucking headbutt. That'll humble anybody. Obviously, I'm joking. That is not me. But I was tagged. I think it was by Mark Vestibule. I can't remember who tagged me in it. It gets a little bit funnier though. The caption on this video is "Man with Down syndrome teaches bully lesson. That headbutt a 10 out of 10 perfect." It's funny that you go down and you see you go down. There's community notes. It says it says the man in the video does not have Down syndrome. He is just Scottish. So I don't know. I don't know what the truth is here. I do have a little bit of a physiognomy of a Downy. Slightly. I look a little bit like Bubbles from South Park. I've heard that quite a bit. So, funny. Yes, that's not me, but whatever. Moving on. I played another, kind of funny clips, goofy stuff. I played just the other day. We were talking about the Carmelo Anthony trial, and you may remember this. I'm going to risk the channel once again because she does say a naughty word. But we're about to make fun of her. So this is a negative thing. This is negative coverage, YouTube. Yes, we're playing a no word, but I'm about to be like, whoa, the audacity of this bitch. So keep that in mind before you deboost, strike, whatever you may do. But anyways, here's a clip I played for you guys the other day, just kind of joking, kind of being like, here's the reporting on the ground of what's going on. So this may jog your memory. Here you go.
Fucking chimping out. Just niggerdom everywhere.
All right. Well, so okay, she said the no word, which is always fun. Fun stuff. Well, apparently there's already a give, send, go for this broad. Now, another thing to add to this is that it's not really kind of, not that it's necessarily like dishonest, but this is apparently Elijah's new girlfriend. So it wasn't really some random, it kind of got framed by many as like, oh, here's an on the street guy who's videoing a random person. It's Elijah Schaefer with his literal girlfriend. And he probably, who knows? He probably was like, say this, or like, that'd be really funny. And then here we are. And now there's already a give, send, go for it. So now it does say, if you look here, it says young lady attacked for speaking the truth. So you've seen it happen 100 years. A young woman says something true, something everyone knows, but isn't allowed to say out loud. The mob descends. Within hours, her reputation is shredded. Strangers demand her complete destruction. Friends go silent because they're afraid of being next. This is just ridiculous. Now this is I guess it was created by someone named Nicholas Rudd, so it's not like there's nothing here. This could just be some sort of somebody thinking they can make a quick buck, kind of with some fraud. I don't know to what degree these guys shut these things down on refund if they realize they are a fraud, but maybe it's just somebody that saw someone said a no word online, and I can just pretend like they got in trouble and then, kind of scam the system. Maybe. I don't know, but it also, in hindsight, it looks kind of contrived. I didn't even realize at first when I played the clip that was Elijah Schaefer's girlfriend. So even just that kind of feels like it's... So this feels like fake controversy. This feels like race grifting is what it feels like. And don't get me wrong, I've said no words, and I did I don't know if it was a give, send, go or GoFundMe or what for Toad when he did nigga Heil Hitler, but I just feel like this is for one, it'd be one thing if there was a substantive thing here where you're like, this lady lost a job or this or that. I don't think she should face any real world overt negative effects for this. I guess if people don't like her because of it, whatever, but I don't know. I don't think people should harass her and try to get her fired so there's not a thing that you're the law is not coming at her I guess they're just saying people are being mean. So, I mean, once again, I don't know if this is connected to Elijah or any of his people or what, but it just all feels like kind of getting played. So I just wanted to add a little bit more of that context to this. I'll be honest, I'm very annoyed with like what I'm kind of thinking is like the inverse of the you may have gotten this impression of the how do I say this? The Reverend Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, I feel like this, like whatever, like what we're seeing right here is like almost like the inverse of it. This is like the race grifting, but like on the opposite side. Like we're just gonna make a whole thing of it, try to make it. It just is ridiculous. It's divisive. It's retarded. And I'm someone who likes saying hard R on the internet. I've said it many times before. I'm going to say it many times again. I thought this was funny when I came across this clip at first. Getting a little bit more context makes you realize, like, oh, are people being... Is there a perception being created here? Not sure. By the way, I guess for bonus, here's another video they shared here. I'm not sure why, but let's see. I guess there's another video of this bro. I guess this video of her sucking off an imaginary dick.
That dick so fucking good. That dick so fucking good. That dick so fucking good. That dick so.
Okay, so that's Elijah Schaefer's new girlfriend. Now, to be fair, she is like 22, which, like, I don't know how old Elijah. I mean, not that that's anything's wrong with, I guess, dating a 22-year-old. Although I think Elijah's older than me. It feels immature. I'll say that. That's weird. But whatever, do you, I guess. But, like, she's 22. So I don't know when this was. There was some TikTok of her being pretty gross. But, yeah. I don't know. It just feels like race grifting to me. I'm kind of over all the race grifting. And once again, I'm someone who likes saying no words, pushing the boundaries. But it's just getting ridiculous. It's getting a little ridiculous. What do you guys think? Moving on. One more. Apparently... A giant inflatable Elon Musk was created for, I think, some sort of parade. Here is a clip of it. I just thought this would be funny. We could cover this, and then we'll get into our foreign policy coverage.
Elon Musk popped up in Times Square, and it's unclear who's behind it. The blow-up obviously shows a shirtless Musk with tattoos of himself and a heart that says ketamine. And it's surrounded by signs that say things like SpaceX owns Grok, and Grok makes AI child porn. I asked the people working here questions like who hired you and is it a company or person behind this, but they wouldn't say anything. They told me they've been directed to stand here for the day and hand out flyers like these with similar talking points as the signs and a QR code that takes you to Grok's website. This inflatable Elon Musk popped up in Times Square, and it's unclear who's behind it. The blow-up obviously...
Okay, well, so I guess it wasn't even a parade. It's just in Times Square. So someone just made a giant inflatable Elon Musk. I gotta say, it doesn't look all that much like Elon Musk. They didn't do a very good job. I feel bad criticizing anyone's art, but you'd think if you're gonna go this much effort, you'd really do a better job here. I don't know. The face is where it gets away from it. It just is. It's not distinctly him. You like almost need to be like told it's Elon to be like, oh, that's Elon. Like nothing about like look, even here they tattooed Elon on the Elon, and that Elon looks good, whereas this one just looks like some generic dude. So. Anyways, whatever. Okay, that's in Times Square, which I'm cool with it. I'm not a big fan of Elon. I mean, the child porn thing, the Grok thing does feel kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a low-hanging fruit, just kind of dumb. Because it is. We covered that this show. I think it was just like a safety thing. Like they were. And don't get me wrong. I think it's weird. I think it's gross. Not cool. But like. It was more that they created an AI and people found ways to exploit it to make like, I guess it is definitionally child porn, but they were doing things where like they were able to be like, oh, say some girl in her bikini and they'd be like, take off the bikini. And then Grok would just like kind of simulate what that chick would look like without it. And people were able to do like stuff like that with kids. Obviously not cool, but then it's like, you can see from like a computer perspective. And it's like, I don't know, maybe that's something safety wise that should have been thought about. But it's not like there's like a magical AI detector where they're like, beep, boop, boop, boop. Well, that's 18. So I can see why it's something like an AI that thinks very literally and autistically could be a problem. But I mean, I guess maybe they should have created some sort of safety features. I think they did. I'm not sure what they did to change it, but it was like, from my understanding, just like a quick blip. But yeah, and I'm someone who's not a big fan of Elon. I just is like, if you're going to criticize him, focus on some real shit. I know, that just feels gay. But with that, let's roll into the chat. Say some good morning. Say some hellos. And then we'll get into our foreign policy coverage of the day. Good morning, Cam Arneal. Good morning. Skipping work. Telling you all to smash that like button. Yeah, please do. Good morning, K Sharp, with a little mini tower in the chat. HONK, honk. And there's a Y too. Are you calling me a honky? Is that what's going on here? I'll take it. Good morning, Alien Big Cat. Said he'd love to press like, but it's already smashed. Yes, appreciate it, brother. Good morning, Marnmax, saying I love Chubby Vance. Chubby Vance is great. Yep, Hotep way ahead of me. Apparently that's Elijah Schaefer's Ehor. Yep, Hotep Beavis. Good morning to you. Good morning. Never trust a man who bleaches his hair. Marnmax letting us know hard R's are fun. Good morning, fun times indeed. Says, are you Hispanic? Why did your parents name you Jose? No, I am not Hispanic. And my parents did not name me Jose. Jose is my internet name. Jose Galison. I've said it before. I have no problem saying it again. My real name is Josh Gallison. I've been doing this long enough to where my real name's like, it's just happened. I think I've accidentally doxed myself sort of a couple. So it's just kind of like, I've also, when I started streaming, I was active duty military still. I'm no longer. So it was like, I was like concerned I could get like fucking trouble for being a podcaster. So I just was like, I'll just make a pseudonym. Because there are like weird like public affairs rules with the military, like so far as like having podcast or like doing stuff like that, because that is interacting with the public. It's like, so like anytime you're talking about anything military, it's just confusing. So if you create a pseudonym, it can be like, well, that was a character I was playing, like, and I was never, it's not like I ever wore military stuff. So like their big thing is about like making sure you don't like muddy up like endorsements, because like if somebody of the military is talking about stuff, that can be misinterpreted as an endorsement. So that's why all the rules are. So that's why I started as a pseudonym. And yeah, it was only like a year or so in that I came out active duty, podcasting. About a year or so after that, but a couple years after that, I got out of the reserves too, and now here I am. So I have no problem telling you guys my name now, Josh Gallison. There's nothing you guys can do that can really really, there's nothing you can do with that, particularly with a name that I'm too concerned about. It's not like I'm gonna get jobs lost or anything crazy like that. So yeah, my parents did not name me Jose. They named me Josh, and Jose is just like the Hispanic equivalent. The name Jose Galison, though, came from before I even started podcasting. Back in my Facebook days, when I used to just like meme a lot on there and get into political arguments and stuff. And right at the peak around like 2020 of like censorship, I got sick of all this censorship and like being worried I was going to lose my account. And so I just made an alt account and I named it Jose Galison, because it's just a, just minor shift from my real name, like Josh Gallison, Jose Galison. And then I just also thought it was like kind of funny, since we were like in peak woke time period, that it's like if I just apply a little bit of Hispanic to it, it's like I may get like I could probably get away with more. and I think it probably did kind of work, but yeah, that's the lore behind Jose Galison, the name Jose. I am not Hispanic, although I have no problem pretending to be if you need me to. Good morning, Emily Lawrence says, and then Fun Time says, you def look more like a Josh. Thanks. Yeah, I'm a Josh. I'm a white guy. I'm a white mutt, about as white as you can. But with that, let's get into foreign policy. Missed a couple days here, or missed a day, so we have an extra day of catching up on foreign policy. So forgive me if this is a little bit on the thicker side. But with that, let's jump right into it. First off, I think last time we talked about how things are picking back up, as a result of, an attack on an Apache helicopter, which it was even kind of confusing who done what there. But, Trump was like, we got to respond. And so from there, we had like, I think something like 2 days in a row of airstrikes or something like. So that was what set it off. This whole Apache helicopter going down. Both pilots who survived, by the way, that's the story here. But that ends up being the pretext for going back to war, essentially. So, but we're getting apparently an Axios report that the U.S. wasn't sure if Iran intentionally downed the Apache helicopter before the strikes were ordered. So, they were admitting they were unsure. So, still willing to kill people over it seems. Axios reported on Wednesday the U.S. still had not determined whether Iran intentionally downed a U.S. Apache helicopter in the Strait of Hormuz before the U.S. bombing began Iran on Tuesday night. For its part, Iran never took credit for downing the Apache, and Iran's deputy foreign minister denied that Tehran was behind the incident, though he acknowledged something could have happened unintentionally. Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, also hinted the helicopter's downing could have been unintentional. Foreign forces in proximity to our territory are at constant risk on account of their own human errors, plane accidents, or potentially being caught in crossfire. To reduce risk, the best solution is for them to leave. We prefer language of diplomacy, but speak other languages too. Trump's account of the incident also didn't make much sense, as he claimed an Iranian drone ended up inside the cockpit between the two pilots, who were later rescued but didn't explode. So essentially the drone didn't explode. They were hit with a Shahid drone, essentially, and it didn't explode, but it somehow perfectly lodged between the two of them in the cockpit. Sounds a little phony to me. Axios report, authored by Barak Ravid. So, keep in mind that adds to the idea of whether it's phony or not. It said that while the downing of the Apache was the trigger of the U.S. strikes, Trump had been growing frustrated by Iran not agreeing to his demands for a deal, suggesting he was looking for a pretext to bomb the country. According to the U.S. military, the two crew members of the U.S. Apache helicopter, which was patrolling the Strait of Hormuz as part of the U.S. enforcement of the blockade on Iranian ports, were rescued by an unmanned drone boat. Trump on Wednesday expressed frustration with Iran, saying the country has taken too long to negotiate a deal that would have been great for them. Now they will have to pay the price, which is funny, because that's kind of almost a mirror of what he said shortly after the Apache helicopter. I think it even may have used the same word, something along the lines of pay the price. So it almost looks like he used the helicopter as pretext, realized it was a little bit shaky, and then, we'll just kind of shift the pretext, ambiguously somewhat over to, well, they should have made a deal by now. So kind of pathetic. Trump on Wednesday expressed frustration with Iran, saying the country has taken to... Oh, he said that. I'm retarded. He ordered another round of strikes as the region appears to have plunged back into full-scale war. And in the midst of one of these strikes, apparently at some point the U.S. Cut off water supply for 20,000 people as a result of such strikes. That's what we in the biz call a fucking war crime. So U.S. strikes against Iran on Tuesday night damaged 2 water reservoirs in Sirak County in Iran's southern Hormozgan province, cutting off water supplies to 20,000 Iranians amid sweltering heat, Iranian media has reported. Unfortunately, following this attack, 20,000 residents of the region have lost access to safe drinking water, with temperatures ranging between 45 and 50 degrees Celsius. Conditions have become extremely difficult and critical for local inhabitants, Iranian state TV reported, quoting local water officials. Destruction of these reservoirs has created a major problem for the region's water supply network, the report added. According to Iran's press TV, Abdul Hamid Hamzapur, a local water official, said the strikes damaged 2 concrete reservoirs with capacities of 500 and 2,000 cubic meters, along with their associated mechanical equipment. He accused the U.S. of deliberately targeting the water infrastructure and called it flagrant terrorism. New York Times reported that it was CENTCOM that it asked CENTCOM about the allegations, but that it declined to comment. In its statements on the U.S. strikes against Iran, which appeared to be the heaviest since the ceasefire was reached in early April, CENTCOM said it targeted Iranian air defense, ground control stations, and surveillance radar sites near the Strait of Hormuz. Trump on Wednesday threatened to bomb civilian infrastructure in Iran, saying that he was getting close to the targeting of Iranian power plants and bridges. During the full-scale U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign against Iran, he also threatened to blow up Iran's desalination plants, and at least one plant was hit in Iran earlier in the war. Deliberate targeting of water supplies is a clear war crime under international law. So, I don't know, I'll be honest, it kind of looks like they did it, and probably intentionally. So, given the threats he's made in the past, which that was the threats that, right before we went to this, weird, tenuous ceasefire sort of thing that we ended up in, right when he was making all these threats about, destroying their civilization and yada yada. This was the stuff he was talking about. These sort of things, destroying infrastructure. That was the sort of things he was alluding to doing at that time. Obviously, flirting perhaps with doing even more. But yeah. Looks like we're right back where we began. Although maybe not, because after those 2 nights of bombings, it looks like Trump's wanting to pull back. Trump says he has canceled plans to bomb Iran for a 3rd night. Trump said on Thursday that he canceled plans for a 3rd night of strikes in Iran based on alleged progress in talks with Iran, which hasn't been confirmed by Tehran. That's a pretty common theme here, based on the fact that discussions with Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership and approved. I have, as President of the United States of America, canceled the scheduled strikes and bombings against Iran this evening. Trump wrote on Truth Social, discussions and final points have been, in both concept and great detail, approved by all parties involved, including the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, and others. The naval blockade will remain in full force and effect until this transaction is finalized. Time and place of the signing to be announced shortly, he added. CNN counted that Trump has claimed at least 38 times during the war that some sort of deal was close, but it never materialized. According to media reports, the potential agreement on the table would focus on opening the Strait of Hormuz and ending the U.S. blockade in Iran, with other issues to be addressed in further negotiations. After Trump's post, Iran's foreign ministry said the deal had mostly been finalized, but the U.S. keeps changing its position and that Tehran won't back down from its core demands. Iran has demonstrated that it does not compromise on what it has defined as its red lines. Iran has not yet reached a final decision regarding an agreement. Earlier, the president threatened more strikes and said the U.S. would eventually be taking Iran's Karg Island, an island deep in the Persian Gulf that serves as a major oil export hub. The United States will be hitting Iran, whose Navy, Air Force, radar, anti-aircraft, and all other forms of defense, together with most of its offensive capability, are gone very hard tonight, the president said on Truth Social. At some point in the not-too-distant future, we will be taking Karg Island and other oil infrastructure points and assume total control of their oil and gas markets, much like we have with Venezuela, which is working out brilliantly for both Venezuela and the United States of America, Trump added. During the full-scale U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign against Iran from February 28th to April 8th, the U.S. positioned Marines and the U.S. Army paratroopers in the region for potential ground operations to target Iranian islands and the country's coast. A report from independent journalist Ken Klippenstein reportedly revealed that some members of the U.S. Army's 82nd Airborne were deployed to Israel. Klippenstein cited a military source who told them that the deployment to Israel was part of a U.S.-Israeli joint contingency plan completed since February to seize Karg Island and carve out coastal territory inside Iran. Later on Thursday, Trump told Fox News that his preference would be to take Karg Island, but that he doesn't know if America would have the stomach for it. Any U.S. ground operation to take the island would almost certainly result in major U.S. casualties, since the invading troops would face significant drone and missile strikes. Trump again compared the potential operation to take over Iranian oil infrastructure to his attack on Venezuela to abduct Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Since then, the U.S. has taken control of Venezuela's oil exports, though the U.S. war with Iran is much different, since the U.S. has faced much stiffer resistance and the entire country is mobilized for war. And then we have some murders, another third party catching some flack, some Indians. Some of this blockade has now finally, not that I was looking forward to it or anything, resulted in deaths. And neither of the actual main parties of the war are the one that the deaths are coming from. So that's kind of interesting. CENTCOM announced on Thursday that it bombed an oil tanker for the 3rd time this week in the Gulf of Oman as part of its enforcement of the blockade of Iranian ports, which comes after India confirmed the previous U.S. attack on a tanker killed 3 Indian crew members. CENTCOM said its latest attack targeted the Guinea-Bissau flag tanker Jalvir. A U.S. aircraft fired 2 Hellfire missiles into the ship's engine room after the crew repeatedly failed to comply with directions from U.S. forces, the command said. Indian media on Thursday identified the 3 Indian mariners who were killed by the previous U.S. attack on the Palo-flagged oil product tanker Setabello as Shivanand Chaurasiya, Patnala Suresh, and Aditya Sharma, a 23-year-old deck cadet who was on the ship for training to become an officer. Aditya's father, Rajesh Sharma, called the U.S. attack a war crime and said his government should take a strong stance. My last conversation with him was on Sunday. I request the government take a strong stance against the U.S. I will say it is a war crime to attack a commercial ship with a missile, Rajev told NDTV. There are lots of ways to control those cargo ships. You can send a military, you can arrest the crew members. You have no right to attack them with deadly missiles, he added. According to CENTCOM's numbers, its forces have disabled 9 civilian commercial ships while enforcing the blockade. The blockade is being enforced impartially against vessels of all nations entering or departing Iranian ports and coastal nations, including all Iranian ports on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, the command said. This is obviously really demonstrative of how much this conflict can really spill over in all sorts of weird different ways. That we have Indians getting caught up in the flack here. So, I mean, can you imagine if these were Chinese or Russian? I mean, luckily we have a good relationship with India, although this is something that could easily strain it. So, but with that, continuing on, apparently Iran's IRGC said it targeted a U.S. U.S. aircraft at base in Jordan with 12 ballistic missiles. I believe the issue here is that the United States claimed more. But on Thursday, the IRGC said its forces targeted U.S. aircraft at the Al-Zawraq Air Base in Jordan as part of its response to U.S. strikes across southern Iran that began on Wednesday night. The IRGC claimed the attack hit F-35, F-15, and F-16 fighter jets and destroyed U.S. military facilities. So far, there's been no confirmation of the damage from the U.S., but the U.S. has consistently downplayed Iranian attacks on its bases and has attempted to cover up damage done during the war by pressuring satellite imagery companies now not to release war-related images. So, I mean, they're claiming they hit at least 3 fighter jets. So that's quite an impressive strike there. That's millions and millions of dollars of damage. For its part, Jordan claimed its forces intercepted 20 missiles and that no casualties or damage were inflicted. At dawn on Thursday, Jordanian air defense systems and the Royal Jordanian Air Force intercepted and shot down 20 missiles that had been launching from Iran toward the Azraq area in Zarqa Governorate, a Jordanian military official said, according to AFP. The interception resulted in the fall of a number of fragments without any human casualties or material damage. The RGC also said that its forces struck U.S. bases in Kuwait and that it targeted a total of 18 U.S. military installations across the region. After the U.S. began its attacks on Wednesday night, Iranian's military Qatam al-Anbiya central headquarters announced it would completely shut the Strait of Hormuz to all traffic. Another exchange of strikes is expected, as Trump said on Thursday morning that Iran would get hit very hard at night, which would mark the third night. Okay, well, we already covered. They said they weren't going to do anything the third night, and we haven't heard anything different. Okay, so I guess they said they threw 12 missiles their way, and then I believe Jordan, so the discrepancy here is Jordan saying they intercepted 20, but we're IRGC saying we only sent over 12. So, but more to the idea of these kind of fudging the numbers. I mean, you could just lie, make it sound more impressive that like, oh, we shot down all these. Meanwhile, they're saying they only sent over 12, and with those 12, they managed to get at least 3 fighter jets. So a little bit different than the way the U.S. Side of things is framing it as we intercepted 20 missiles and no casualties or damage. So a little bit of a conflict here. But speaking of conflicts, looks like we may end up with one in Cuba, unfortunately, sometime soon. Here is Pete Hegseth talking to some of his people. 1 second, I'm going to bring up a new screen. Talking to his people over at Guantanamo Bay with one of his little PT sessions we see every now and then. But here he is.
And then you look at Cuba, where we are, where the United States of America has been for over 100 years and where we will remain in key terrain. And that government has decisions to make about what kind of reforms they want to pursue. It's not my job to make that decision for them. It's our job at the War Department to be prepared for whatever our Commander-in-Chief asks us to do on behalf of defending the American people. It would be unwise for the government of Cuba to try to procure or get access to the types of weapons that could reach this base or the American homeland. They would be inviting the kind of confrontation
I do want to back up real quick. I guess not back up, just make a point. How he said this base, he is on Guantanamo Bay. Can you imagine? That is in fucking Cuba. Can you imagine the absolute gall of being like, You know, hey, you're not allowed to have missile defense systems that would reach us in your own fucking country. So, absolutely astounding. It kind of mirrors Iran. And even the U.S. one is a little bit kind of like, dude, you're like, what is Cuba like? Isn't it something like 50 to like 100 miles off the coast or some shit? It's like not far off the coast of Florida. So it's like, I don't feel like asking a country not to be able to develop missiles that could reach that far is kind of insane, and it's kind of like, where the fuck do you get off? But anyways,
do they not want, but they could not stand. No country on earth can match the capabilities of the United States of America. We seek no enemies, we seek no foes. We're a great friend, and we hope soon we can be a friend of the leadership of the government of Cuba. For now, let's see what happens. But the Department of War will give the Commander-in-Chief every single option he needs inside that contingent.
So we're getting more saber rattling from Cuba is the essence here. So let's be real. That's going to start probably at sometime. I mean, it seems like maybe they're waiting for Iran to come to an end. I've been saying that I wouldn't be surprised if they use it as a distraction tactic from Iran at some point and they end up just doing both. But we still have that sitting in the wings, so keep an eye. Yeah. But anyways, moving on. Another attempt by the Israeli government. Another attempt to essentially create some sort of sharing, vibe with with whether it's with Intel or the military. One more instance of this. We've covered multiple recently, so it seems to be very obvious. This is a game. The tendrils are coming from all different which ways here with this one. But here's one. It says the Senate wants to force the U.S. to share sensitive intel with Israel. So the intel sharing, when it comes to especially like military intel or counterterrorism intel, stuff like that. That is the new move. They essentially want to merge with us and essentially become one in some sense, and drop the as much money. So this essentially they'd be getting services instead of money. I mean, they're already getting an exorbitant amount of military services out of us, but they're trying to squeeze even more, and then maybe lighten up on the money. Although let's be real, we'll probably just end up with both. But buried inside a 192-page intelligence authorization bill is Section 622, titled United States-Israel Intelligence Sharing Enhancement. It would require the President acting through the Director of National Intelligence and, as necessary, the Secretary of Defense to expand and enhance intelligence sharing with the government of Israel on a list of subjects that encompasses almost every topic of intelligence interest in the Middle East. The bill put forward by Senator Tom Cotton, well, that's unsurprising, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, would prohibit any suspension, reduction, or limitation of such sharing except on a basis of a specific and identifiable national security concern determined by the president. That's wild. So the idea is they would share literally everything unless it had been explicitly pointed out by the president. That you can't talk to them. They can't give them this specific thing. So, pretty fucking wild. Any such exception would require a report to Congress within 15 days, detailing not only the reason for the change, but also the categories of information involved. The same report would require an assessment of the anticipated impact on regional security and various other matters. The proposal is one of several recent moves by those in Washington who carry the Israeli government's water to keep the U.S. tied to Israel despite plummeting support for the country among the American public. The most salient form of U.S. support to Israel has been the more than $300 billion in economic and especially military assistance. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has tried to get ahead of the declining public support and avoid embarrassing losses by suggesting it would be fine with him to phase out the military aid. Israel's strategy and that of the U.S. supporters is now to rely on ties with and support from the U.S. that are not as salient as the military aid with its prominent price tag. The strategy includes forms of military integration that are less visible than congressionally appropriated grant aid and therefore less publicly accountable. Section 224 of a defense authorization bill currently in the House of Representatives embodies this form of integration. The mandating of intelligence sharing carries the strategy further by moving it into the shadowy world of relations beyond intelligence agencies. That world is even further removed from public visibility and accountability than the defense integration, and even less likely to stimulate thoughts about American taxpayers' money going to a foreign country. So far, 622 of the intelligence bill has received less attention than 224 of the defense bill. The notion of legislating an intelligence liaison relationship in this way with any foreign country is bizarre. Liaison with counterpart foreign services, including exchanges of information, is an important but complex part of the intelligence business. The nature of a liaison relationship depends partly on the temperature of the overall political relationship with the country in question, but also on other factors known mostly to intelligence officers. These include the collection requirements levied on them, their ability or inability to meet those requirements with national resources, their assessment of the foreign services' ability and willingness to fill collection gaps, the role that any trading of information plays as quid pro quos in operational cooperation, and the risks of compromising intelligence sources and methods. Moreover, no single liaison relationship exists in isolation. The U.S. intel services need to consider possible implications for their other foreign relationships. For example, one generally does not share with country A information about country B if the U.S. has a relationship with it B that is on about the same level as it has with A. Intelligence liaison involves a hierarchy of relationships ranging from extensive cooperation with close allies to carefully limited ad hoc exchanges with adversaries. The intelligence community has a staff with the full-time job of monitoring and managing a set of relationships to prevent cross wires. A congressional mandate regarding a single relationship increases the chances of cross wires. But yeah, another attempt that's looking like they're going to get their way to claw their hands into essentially merging with the beast that they are predating upon, the United States. Moving on, continuing on the flip side, looks like we have a little bit of a good story somewhat here. We got the House rejects bill to renew warrantless spy powers. The House of Representatives on Thursday rejected a bill to extend Section 702 of FISA, which gives the federal government the power to conduct warrantless surveillance of Americans. And now the spying tool is expected to lapse as its last extension will expire on Friday night. The bill to renew Section 702 required a two-thirds majority, but couldn't even gain a simple majority as it failed in a vote of 198 to 218, which is 7 Democrats voting in favor of the extension. 19 Republicans joined Democrats in opposing the bill. 19 Republicans withheld their votes in order to preserve constitutionally guaranteed rights. Massey wrote an X, by refusing to honor the Fourth Amendment, you're jeopardizing the continuation of FISA. Include a warrant requirement for U.S. citizens if you want Republicans to pass this bill. So, hell yeah. Section 702 of FISA on the way out. Let me see. Let's see if there's something that gives a more specific what is. Okay, here we go. Section 702, first enacted in 2008, authorizes warrantless surveillance targeting non-Americans overseas, but also results in the collection of a vast amount of Americans' communications. Those communications are retained in government databases and can be searched by U.S. intelligence and law enforcement agencies without a warrant. So that's going bye-bye. So, hey, we've got a little positive here. But once again, going back to the negative, things ain't looking good over in Lebanon. Had 30 killed in the past 24 hours. Before these. So yesterday, because we skipped a day, the reading of that's a little bit weird. But this was on the 10th, so that means the 9th. What was this? So this would be on the 9th. So this would be Tuesday. On Tuesday, there was 30 people killed in Lebanon. And then on Wednesday, there were 13 killed in Lebanon. So here's from Jason Ditz, covering this. So in the past 48 hours, we've had 43 people murdered in Lebanon. So isn't that wonderful? So Israel maintains that they're exclusively attacking Hezbollah in their invasion of Lebanon, and that they take extraordinary measures to avoid hitting civilians. The sheer number of times they've attacked hospitals, however, especially in the city of Tyre, challenges those claims. Once against Thursday, Israeli forces struck the area near the Haram Hospital in Tyre, killing 1 and wounding 17, including a number of nurses and other hospital employees, and damaging the hospital. 8 were reported killed in Tyre, Diba, and 4 more reported killed in Deir Konun. Between those, Tyre and a strike at Sudan, at least 13 people were killed and more than 25 others wounded across Lebanon the past day. Lebanese Health Ministry reports 3,711 have been killed so far since Israel's invasion in early March. Ministry further reports 132 healthcare workers have been killed. Israeli ground troops continue to expand northward into Lebanon, claiming to have seized full operational control over the area north of the Saluki Stream, which is some 10 kilometers north of the border. This is the furthest into Lebanon troops have claimed to have seized since the war began. Hezbollah continues to resist the invasion and reportedly hit a group of IDF troops in southern Lebanon. The exact location was not disclosed, but the IDF reported one soldier, a female, was moderately wounded in the explosion. And then going over to Gaza, we got 3 killed in Gaza. So on Thursday, attacks in Gaza killed at least 2 Palestinians. Oh, by the way, I think I said that backward on the previous Lebanon. It was Wednesday and Thursday, I believe, or I might have them backwards. Either way, whether it was Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, 43 people's lives were taken by the wonderful state of Israel. So Israeli attacks in Gaza on Thursday killed at least 2 Palestinians, according to the Palestinian medics speaking to Reuters, as the IDF continues its constant violations of the U.S.-backed ceasefire deal. The Palestinian news agency WAFA reported that one of the strikes, so once again, as you guys can tell Dave Rubin to suck my dick, we got a strike again. And so it's every single, was this like 6 days in a row that I've done a dump that there's been a strike. So still astounding to me that Dave Rubin acted flabbergasted at the proposition that Israel was still bombing people over in Gaza. Well, it's been damn near every fucking day. So this day is unfortunately no different. Medics told Reuters that 2 other Palestinians were killed by attacks in the Nuseirat refugee camp in central Gaza. The WAFA report said one of the strikes targeted a group of civilians west of Nuseirat. Israeli military claimed to Reuters the strike in Gaza City killed a militant, but it offered no evidence for the claim. Regardless of who was targeted, each Israeli strike violates the October 2025 ceasefire deal, which called for a halt to all military operations, including aerial and artillery, bombardment, and targeting operations. Gaza's health ministry sent its daily update on Thursday that recorded 7 injuries sustained by Israel's attacks over the previous 24-hour period. It said the so-called ceasefire deal was since the so-called ceasefire deal was signed, the IDF has killed at least 981 Palestinians in Gaza. Israel has violated the ceasefire deal by expanding the control of Gaza from 53% of the territory to 60% as it has moved its yellow line further west. Recently, Netanyahu said that he ordered the IDF to expand up to 70%. Ceasefire deal states the IDF will not return to areas that have been withdrawn from as long as Hamas fully implements the agreement. And Hamas has fulfilled its side of the deal by releasing all living Israeli hostages and bodies that it had and working to recover other Israeli remains. Israeli officials have claimed Hamas is violating the deal by not disarming. But the agreement didn't commit Hamas to giving up its weapons. The 2 sides agreed to a U.S. proposal that called for the demilitarization of Gaza as a framework for negotiations, but the issue of disarmament was meant to be worked out in follow-up negotiations. With that, let's go in the chat, say more good mornings, and then we will get into our first titled segment of the day, Epstein Coverup Explodes. Stolen Latinx valor over here for sure. Northside says, holy fuck, Pete is gay. Yes, Pete Hegseth is very gay. And then Big Cat says, BS as if Cuba could ever threaten the U.S. Yes. I mean, they could, but it would be like signing their death warrant. It would be retarded. Like the idea that they would actually send missiles our way is quite ridiculous. All right, let's get in the Epstein stuff. Starting off our coverage of the Epstein Coverup exposed today. Well, it looks like we're about to be in a new ODNI. Trump has announced the new Director of National Intelligence. That's the job that Tulsi Gabbard recently stepped down from on account of her husband and some cancer or something or other. I have a feeling that's one of those stories we're going to learn a lot more about in the future, and there probably is a whole lot more to that. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll never know more, but either way, she's out and somebody else is in. Here's Trump says, I am pleased to announce the nomination of very highly respected Jay Clayton, former chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission, the former head of Sullivan and Cromwell, one of the most prominent and successful law firms anywhere in the world, and the current United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. to be the next director of national intelligence, and importantly, to serve in my cabinet. Few people anywhere in the legal community are respected at the level of Jay. I encourage the United States Senate to confirm Jay as soon as possible. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Donald J. Trump. Well, then Owen Stroyer pointed out pretty shrewdly here. Trump announces Jay Clayton, a U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York, to be the next director of national intelligence. The Southern District of New York, obviously known for its conservative values and excellent handling of the Epstein files. For those who aren't aware, like the SDNY, that was the district that covered a shitload of the Epstein stuff. It's also the one we got all those weird stories about, like, oh, the SDNY has hid thousands. We got this like weird cope like reports say, trust me, bros, back and forth during that period of time. This is like back in phase 1 of the Epstein deal or Epstein files, like back in that time period. That's when we were getting all these things floated out. It was the SDNY. It was the Southern District of New York. It was their FBI division that was typically being brought up as like, they're trying to, and it was the whole time. This is the region, the Southern District of New York. That's the region. The U.S. attorney, the U.S. attorney there was Jay Clayton, the person that was like the legal guy there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's involved in any of that, but it is like he is the top legal dog in that area. So, do with that information what you will. I would not be much of a pattern recognizer if I did not notice that one little. Now, that is just one little part of a pattern. It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's worth pointing out. Continuing on, Bill Gates recently went to Congress. Here is Whitney Webb giving a little info on. Oh, I didn't have it up the whole time like an idiot, but here is Whitney Webb giving her take on kind of why people don't really want to dig into the Bill Gates and the earlier days of Epstein, like this era of Epstein. But with that, here's Whitney Webb.
They don't want you looking at Epstein before 2000 and what he was doing, because if you look there, it's bad news for Bill Clinton. It's bad news for people like Bill Gates, who were very powerful. And it turns out Epstein had a major role in the creation and development of the Clinton Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That would be very damaging if it came out for those foundations, which, as we know now, have an extreme influence on health policy globally and other policies as well. And it was Epstein, for example, who is even admitted by the New York Times to be a eugenicist and things like that, who designed the HIV/AIDS program for the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Health Access Initiative, which works very closely with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and various other things. So, it's very relevant, his involvement there, but they don't, there's a lot of off-limits stuff with Epstein. It's like a very narrow window that people in the mainstream are willing to cover and discuss.
Well, let's dig a little bit into that time period. Bill Gates just went to Congress, had to prostrate himself in front of those people. So let's dig into that a little bit. Here's a piece from Daily Mail covering this. Although I likely think it's probably just going to be retreading a lot of stuff we already know, that many people have like deduced from digging into the files, like the embarrassing thing with Epstein. Like a lot of people have seen that one email that Epstein sent to himself in like a draft, and it was like this whole built out thing. In which I guess he had a number of these, and it very clearly it was worded in a weird way of like, oh wow, I've been such a good friend and I didn't even tell anybody about all this incriminating stuff I know, and then tells all about the incriminating. So it's very much like a blackmailers type thing. Like this is a sort of shtick you'd think you'd be given by a blackmailer, and that is in the Epstein files. That an example of that, Jeffrey Epstein. In it, he does. There's a number of claims, I believe. I think there's other files that imply other things, Bill Gates. But the big one a lot of people have brought up is that supposedly he tried to give his wife as antibiotics, I guess, or for essentially to treat an STD that he had acquired from some trollop that we can kind of assume maybe he got hooked up by Epstein with or whatever. And he's concerned he may have given it to his wife, so he's trying to slip her antibiotics. And that's probably the big thing most people know, but who knows, maybe more was revealed, so let's dig into it. So Bill Gates admitted to cheating on his ex-wife, Melinda. and claimed Jeffrey Epstein tried to weaponize the affairs against him during a bombshell congressional grilling on Wednesday. The Microsoft founder, 70, denied any wrongdoing, but claimed the pedophile wielded the painful secrets in a bid to strong-arm him back into the friendship after he cut it off. I learned that Epstein had become aware of sensitive information about my personal life, including the fact that I had been unfaithful in my marriage. These affairs had nothing to do with my interactions with Epstein, but they were painful for my family, Gates said, according to his prepared statement to the House Oversight Committee. Gates struck up a relationship with Epstein in 2011 after the financier promised he could help raise billions of dollars for global health initiatives. Epstein was already a registered sex offender, having pled guilty in Florida 3 years earlier to soliciting prostitution from a minor. I recall being aware that Epstein had faced prior legal issues, but did not fully understand the extent of the crimes he committed. I accepted the introduction without applying the scrutiny I should have. Gates told lawmakers on Capitol Hill. He claimed his interactions with the pedophile were limited and testified that he cut off all contact in 2014. So Bill Gates is saying he was aware of his crimes. He's just saying, obviously, he's saying, I wasn't aware how bad they were, but he was aware. Which you would think, like, if you were aware, I mean, I would want more defining on what you mean by you were aware. Like, you were aware this guy went to jail for, sex with a child? Is that you're aware of that? Like, I get it. Like, I'm sure he probably tells all his buddies, and probably how it gets murmured about was probably like, oh, she was 17, or not that it makes it okay, but you know what I mean? Like, kind of like something right on the line, or she lied, or I don't know how he's probably fronting this out to people out there in the world to not sound as bad, but who knows? Maybe that's how Bill Gates received it, but you would think even just a little bit of like, wait, what? Anyways, Gates alleged Epstein deployed what he knew of the infidelities, in addition to many lies he layered on top to try to drag him back in the fold. He was unsuccessful in his effort, but shows some of the ways he tried to leverage his interaction with me to further his agenda. I should never have met with Epstein in the first place, he said. Gates was hauled before Congress after photos and emails and Epstein files exposed startling new depths to his former friendship with the financier. In one jaw-dropping email, Epstein alleged Gates planned to secretly slip Melinda an antibiotic to treat a sexually transmitted disease he caught from Russian girls. The files also contained never-before-seen photos of Gates posing with young women. Gates' 27-year marriage to Melinda imploded in 2021 with his cozy ties to Epstein helping to wreck it. Melinda said of Epstein after the divorce, he was abhorrent, he was evil personified, my heart breaks for these women. Gates has called associating with Epstein a huge mistake, but claims that he did nothing wrong and saw nothing illegal. The pair met in person, traded emails, and Gates flew on Epstein's private jet, though he has repeatedly denied ever setting foot on the pedophile's Caribbean island. Epstein was federally indicted in July 2019 on charges of sex trafficking of minors and related conspiracy. Justice Department alleged that Epstein formed a vast network of... we don't need to read all that. The Gates has called the Russian girl's email fake and denied the allegations. He told Australian television in February that he'd been foolish to associate with Epstein, but said the relationship had nothing to do with the financier's crimes. Appearing in the Epstein files does not indicate evidence of a crime. Every minute I spent with him I regret, and I apologize that I did that. It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to his island. I never met with any women. So that's the line he's towing there. Gates told his foundation staff that he had affairs with two Russian women, the Wall Street Journal reported, but denied spending time with Epstein's victims. Gates reportedly acknowledged that his then-wife, Melinda, raised concerns about Epstein in 2013, but he continued the relationship for at least another year. Melinda said the remaining questions about the relationship are for her ex-husband and others to answer. I think that's basically it. So, yeah, nothing really too new. So he just kind of rehashed some of the old stuff that we all know. Kind of made all the claims we expected him to make. So nothing really too surprising there. But, hey, we've dug through it. We did our due diligence. So now you know that what happened in the congressional meeting with Bill Gates. Nothing all too surprising. But I know that I've probably lost all the people. I know you're supposed to lead with the big shit. Well, not over here at No Way Jose. I trudged through that first. There was some big stuff recently released. It almost kind of works out I wasn't here yesterday because it gave me time to dig into this. Now, in the interest of, I guess, honest, or not even like honesty, or I guess just transparency, or just so you know where I'm coming from, I've read both of these pieces that we're about to talk about here in a second. Actually, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'll talk about that here in a minute. Either way, here's the oversight Dems saying J.D. Vance is now involved. The White House is fully involved. Todd Blanche moved Ghislaine to protect Trump. This is the biggest cover-up in American history. Now, I caught this yesterday. I was just flicking through Twitter. I went, holy shit, made my eyes widen a little bit. I'm like, don't get me wrong. I see the oversight Dems and the Republicans kind of doing these gay little back and forth, little kind of binary duopoly little games of, silly little nonsense that usually is not that big of a deal. And they may make this claim or that claim, but then I came across this and I was like, that sounds pretty wild. What are they talking about? And so I dug a little bit deeper. I was like, because this seems like kind of a little bit over their skis, maybe. Like they're making, that's quite the statement. Say the White House is involved, J.D. Vance is involved, Todd Blanche moved Ghislaine to protect Trump. These are pretty crazy claims. And what this is coming from is a piece from. It's a piece from this one's they're sharing the Daily Beast, but it actually originally comes from New York Times. And the reason why I was telling you before about I read the New York Times piece and I've read the Daily Beast piece. Now they are on my page. I'll even give it a retweet, the New York Times one. So you guys go find the New York Times piece is like super long. We're gonna go through the Daily Beast piece here. I read both because I was extremely drawn into this story right here. But I will tell you, if you guys do want to dig in the New York Times ones, you can, and I'm sure there's definitely value to be gotten out of it, but it's way longer than the Daily Beast thing, and I really don't think there was anything crazy meaningful out of it. But it originally came from a New York Times report, what we're about to dig through here, so it seems like they have inside sources in the White House. So bear in mind, this is a trust me bro sort of story, but the sort of stuff they're saying and the people of which they are saying it about is pretty crazy. So like you would think if it was true, like if this stuff if this stuff is false and it's stuff that the powers that be do not want to be floated out, you would think there would be lawsuits incoming. Now, if this is true, obviously that's wild, but there's also, I gave you an if on the false there. So obviously on the false side of things, and it's like, then, if this is false, there's also a good chance this is intentionally false. So that's why I think there's, these are things worth being aware of as we read through this. We're not necessarily reading this thinking this is 100% true. We're not even necessarily reading it thinking it's 100% false. We're just kind of reading it. These are the statements being made. These are reports from inside the White House coming from the New York Times. And from there, you can decide, do I think this is real? Do I think it's not? What does it mean if it's real? What does it mean if it's not real? I mean, you're also going to hold both these ideas at the same time, like kind of like this is wild if it's true, and it's also wild if this is a lie. So I'm not sure what to make of this. I have lots of thoughts, but this is something else, and this does focus a lot around J.D. Vance. I guess give you a little bit of a tease before we dig into it. Here's an excerpt of it. It says, J.D. Vance pushed to have Tucker Carlson interview jailed sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell as part of White House efforts to defuse Donald Trump's self-engineered Jeffrey Epstein crisis. Quite the idea. And then one more thing before we dig into the piece entirely. I thought this was worth mentioning. This is actually, they made a separate whole article out of this, but I don't really feel like it was completely necessary. I mean, I guess whatever, but I did think it's worth, it's kind of like something you don't even really think about as the piece we're about to read. You're kind of like, it's like in the subtext of the story, but this in and of itself is also significant. Apparently they were using the Situation Room as an Epstein war room. This is a room that's intended for like national security, like this is war planning, like big shit. Yet this is like where they were literally planning their PR for the Epstein stuff. So I think that's significant as well. Just insane. Here's a little excerpt from the piece on that. It says the secure Situation Room complex where Obama and his team monitored the raid that killed Osama bin Laden became the setting for a string of meetings in which the Trump administration's most senior officials gathered without the president to manage the fallout from public fury over their failure to release the Epstein files. To their surprise, much of that backlash was coming from what they'd considered the reliably loyal MAGA base. As the calls for disclosure grew louder, Trump's inner circle spent more and more time in the Situation Room, which became inseparable from the crisis, a guarded space used not to weigh a foreign threat, but to steer the president around a political problem concerning a notorious dead pedophile. So, this is I just really cannot emphasize how fucking wild of a story this is. But with that, let's go ahead and dig into it. Here's the Daily Beast piece. This is focusing more in on the J.D. Vance side of it, some of the, essentially the PR stuff he was floating out there. Now, there's definitely a lot more to kind of hone in on and think of this piece, but I think the J.D. Vance one's an interesting snapshot as well. But let's go and dig into this. This is Vance's twisted plot for Ghislaine Maxwell interview exposed. So J.D. Vance pushed to have Tucker Carlson interview jailed sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell as part of White House efforts to defuse Donald Trump's self-engineered Jeffrey Epstein crisis. The president pledged full transparency in the late pedophile's crimes in the 2024 campaign trail. He broke that promise after retaking the White House with what critics say was a concerted effort to deflect scrutiny of his own relationship with Epstein by blocking and later obfuscating the release of Justice Department findings on the case. The backlash ran so deep that Trump's top officials convened a secret meeting last July to frantically compare notes on containing the scandal as it threatened to split the MAGA base, according to an explosive report by the New York Times published Wednesday. Trump himself, the newspaper adds, did not attend the summit, which was held in the Situation Room beneath the White House 10 days after the DOJ and FBI released a memo asserting Epstein had kept no client list of uber-wealthy accomplices and that his 2019 death in police custody had been a suicide. Influential right-wing voices have long questioned those claims. This is a huge problem, Vance opened by telling the room, the newspaper reported. He was apparently so panicked that other aides left under the impression he'd fully embraced some of the wilder theories about Epstein's crimes that have long swirled in darker corners of the internet. Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, famously admitted in a subsequent Vanity Fair interview that she believes Vance is a full-blown conspiracy theorist. Now, once again, I just want to remind you, think about this from the perspective of like not reading this of like, oh my God, this is false. Oh my God, this is true. Just keep in mind, somebody told somebody this, and this is the information they ran with. So, I mean, if this is fake, like, think about the characters that are being painted and how they behave behind the scenes. So I say painted because it's like we're not sure if this painting is an accurate rendition of the person. So even if it is accurate, this is wild. And if this is inaccurate, you're like, well, what kind of character are you trying to create for Vance here? What does this mean for his future? And I guess a little bit of spoiler here is, in some senses, like, don't get me wrong, like Vance, even assuming this is truthful, this whole thing, it's like Vance does not necessarily look good, but there is a way to look at it in which you go, oh, he's clearly the guy who wanted transparency. He's clearly the guy who wanted all this Epstein stuff out. He was the one pushing for us behind the scenes. The political narrative kind of writes itself here for the future. And keep in mind, this guy is Thiel's guy. He very much wants to be president one day. Vice President's proposed remedy was to send Carlson into prison to question Maxwell, who is serving a 20-year sentence for her part in Epstein's abuse of underage girls, in the hope she might clear Trump of any impropriety on camera, the New York Times found. Attorney General Todd Blanche, Trump's former defense attorney, eventually wound up doing the interview rather than Carlson. Now, the Oversight Dems did claim in their tweet something about Todd Blanche arranging for her to move there. Now, that's something we never really completely cleared up, and I don't remember seeing that in the New York Times one either. So, like, I thought that might be something that was borne out in that piece that, like, kind of is, like, gave a little bit more, like, what happened with the moving Ghislaine around. But I don't recall that being in the piece. I mean, maybe I missed it, but I just want to throw that out there. But Vance further suggested making his own appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast to discuss the scandal. So, he was floating out getting Tucker Carlson to interview Ghislaine Maxwell and then him going on Joe Rogan. Only the portion of that interview would be committed to the Epstein case he proposed, with the rest focused on trumpeting the president's legislative agenda. Deputy Chief of Staff James Blair was quick to pour cold water in Vance's idea of getting ahead of the crisis. With all due respect, the communication strategy of this group got us here, he told Vance. I don't know what it's going to get us out, and if you're going to go in front of the press, you've got a lot of work to do. He then asked Vance a series of mock questions to illustrate just how challenging any appearance might prove. Vance nevertheless lobbied hard for dumping the full cache of files and even backed a congressional inquiry, according to the New York Times. He argued that Congress was going to force the release of the files eventually, the newspaper writes. If the administration got this and released everything voluntarily, including whatever material existed about the president, it would at least get credit for transparency. The alternative was to let the story drag on for months, and as information dripped out, each new revelation renewing the cycle of suspicion and fury, it adds. Trump, in the end, chose the latter option, only releasing the files in heavily redacted tranches after a bipartisan campaign of pressure from the House and Senate forced him to do so. The Daily Beast has contacted Vance's office and the White House for comment. So, pretty well. Now, there is stuff obviously left out. I told you the New York Times piece is like way longer. This is just like barely even like a page. The New York Times is like a fucking 45-minute long read, essentially. This is like a less than 10. Probably less than 5, really. But I think this kind of hits a lot of the main beats. There's obviously stuff we're not hitting here. But either way, that's what's being painted. That this was, the cover-up was being orchestrated behind the scenes. It's, it goes more in the piece about how Trump was behaving and how he was kind of dragging his feet. And it seems like pretty much everybody wanted to kind of get ahead of it. It was Trump that was really kind of get away from it in any way, shape, or form, and was very much like, I can't fucking do this. And he was kind of dragging and screaming into every little Epstein thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm curious what you guys think about this one. Tell me in the chat, because I struggle to buy this one. I don't think I struggle to believe this is truth. This really feels like some JD Vance cope. Now, this piece that we read here does, kind of frame JD a little bit better. When you're the New York Times piece, he does kind of seem still not great, so it's still not necessarily like good for him. But I don't know, kind of makes him look like he's the one pursuing truth. He's the good guy behind the scenes. I'm not buying it. What about you guys? All right, let's pop the chat, and then we'll get into our last segment of the day. So the Tates, our Tates expose stuff. Good morning, Sirhan Solo. Good morning, Q Bertamo, saying sup fags and fagettes. Q-Bert says I've started to ponder whether or not the whole Epstein saga could be fake and gay and just part of the script to hold people's attentions and emotions. Yeah, it could be. Always something to think about. At this point, though, I don't know. It's so over the top. I have a hard time believing this is just contrived shit just to get us going. I mean, it seems a bit overmuch. This seems to be a lot just for that. Good morning, Oxtail. Good morning. Mr. Wokeright, good morning to you. Says Ghislaine said she would only let Tower Gang interview her. Good morning, DWS. Says won't release shit, but more red tape papers. Yeah, unfortunately, you're probably correct. All right, let's get into our final segment of the day, getting into the Andrew Tate stuff, digging back into there. Help me out over here. Hit that like button. It inevitably the viewership does dip whenever we get like super deep into some sort of like a series or ongoing segments. So help me out if you are digging this. I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll abandon it because this is going to be quite. I'm still compelled here. So you guys tell me, are you still compelled by this? I am. If you're not, we'll drop it because obviously it's probably not necessarily to my benefit, but hey, whatever. That's what this morning show is for. It's for just digging into stuff that we're interested in, want to learn more about. So, hey, whatever. I guess it's the time to do this sort of stuff. Go on these weird deep dives. Well, before we get into the piece again, I did want to share something one of you guys shared with me. Here's Not Today Satan is pointing out some Tate-like behavior in his state. Apparently, he says this is shared by Ari Hoffman. This is a 21-year-old wannabe influencer arrested for human trafficking, organized crime after police raid Bellevue, Washington mansion. Woman alleged they had been promised earnings through adult content platforms, including on OnlyFans and ChatterBabe. So we have some 20-year-old influencer over in Washington. Moving broads around and getting busted for it, which I'm someone who's like fully on board with like things like prostitution and stuff being legal, and like, but it does kind of like if you are, I don't know, the idea is like what exactly is going on here? You kind of are pushing it close to like the lines of legality. Is like, anyways. So here's a luxury Bellevue, Washington mansion known among neighbors as the Diddy House. Okay, well, this got a little bit deeper, huh? Was raided by police this week after investigators allege it served as a hub of a human trafficking and financial exploitation operation. Authorities arrested 21-year-old Nikita Tuyukolo. That is a crazy last name for a white dude. On allegations of human trafficking, money laundering, and leading organized crime. According to Bellevue police, he was taken into custody after detectives executed a search warrant at a Lakemont neighborhood mansion as part of a months-long investigation into what authorities describe as an organized operation that recruited young women into adult content business and allegedly subjected them to coercion, intimidation, financial exploitation, and abuse. Now, yeah, see, that stuff right there, the coercion, the intimidation, that is where I was getting at, where it kind of blurs the line of legality. Because, like, yeah, sure, let's assume there's some guy and says, hey, lady, would you like to come work for me? And we will split some earnings, and I will provide these services for your business, and you'll go have sex with these men, and then they make money off of it. And this is how they interact with each other, perfectly polite and civil, and, you know, as if it's just a normal business arrangement. Sure, while many people may have think that's gross, have negative opinions on it, I don't necessarily think it should be illegal. But the problem is, usually, though, that's not how those situations tend to go. If you like, more times than not, there's probably a little something else going on. Not saying that therefore that means it should be like you get in trouble, like it should be immediately illegal and you should just assume illegality. I'm just saying it does tend to go with the territory. And if you do find that thing coming with the territory, well then, hey, well now we're looking at some legit fucky shit and something should be done about it. So his Instagram with over 5,000 followers, he posted photos of money as well as fancy sports cars with a bio, 14 million profit by 20 private equity and sales. So he was flaunting this stuff, private equity and sales. Okay. They say the case began after multiple women came forward alleging they had been promised substantial earnings. So there's fraud. So to the point of, yes, I'm fine with prostitution being illegal or whatever, but you have fraud, you have abuse, those things, no. Now, alleging they've been promised substantial earnings through social media recruitment campaigns tied to adult content platforms, including OnlyFans and Chatterbait. Several women told detectives they were recruited into an operation associated with Nova Talent Management, where they were allegedly promised lucrative incomes, but later lost access to accounts and earnings generated in their names. So they lost access to the accounts later. That's interesting. According to court documents obtained by the Ari Hoffman show, several women alleged they were pressured into creating increasingly explicit content while managers controlled account passwords, finances, and communications. One alleged victim told detectives she discovered an account creator name generated nearly $230,000 in gross revenue over 1 year, but claimed she was denied access to the money and locked out of the account. Multiple women described what investigators characterized as a pattern of manipulation and control. Allegations continued in the probable cause documents include physical assaults, threats, intimidation, forced work schedules, financial withholding, and the use of fear to prevent women from leaving the operation. Several women also alleged that Tuyukolo and associates attempt to recruit additional women through social media and personal contacts. The search uncovered evidence that investigators believe was used to support the operation. They found a large whiteboard labeled the content plan, notebooks tracking earnings, financial records linked to Nova Talent Management, and documents reflecting hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through business accounts. They got over 300 cell phones, over 50 laptops. Nuts. They believe the devices were used to manage content creation, social media promotion, and online account activity. Detectives additionally located more than 30 sex toys, an empty prescription bottle consistent with Adderall. Several women interviewed by police alleged stimulants were routinely provided to workers to help them remain awake during lengthy sessions. I mean, that should be legal too, but whatever. Okay, well, I know the accusations of stuff that I would actually find legitimately criminal do seem a little bit shaky, but either way, it's still wild. This like 21-year-old so-called influencer is slinging this around, just kind of being this open about it. But anyways, moving on, let's get into now that we dug into a modern example of an Andrew Tate over here in the U.S., over in Washington. Let's get back into our piece that we were covering with the Tates. what was this called? Empire of Abuse, I think, or something like that. Over at, I believe, what was this, Newsweek? Is that what this was? I want to make sure I'm giving ups here to the correct entity. New Yorker, not Newsweek. New Yorker. It's Andrew Tate's Empire of Abuse. So back to where we started. We're gonna go back just one paragraph because I think this matters. So as the webcam business expanded, so we're starting off with the Tates are in Bucharest. They're doing their little OnlyFans horrors operation, and now they've met a British entrepreneur. That is where we're at now. It looks like they're getting ready to make a mix-up in how they do business. So as the webcam business expanded, a British entrepreneur named Naomi John was brought in to help. John had grown up in Bedfordshire, not far from the Tates, and as a young woman had opened a swimwear store named Sandstorm Boutique. The store became a sponsor of the Miss World Beauty pageant, and John served as a judge for Miss Universe Great Britain, a significant recruiting pipeline for models. 2016, the Tates persuaded John to move to Bucharest. They had launched a recruitment agency called Model Stars, and they wanted their role in it to be obscured. Yeah, I'm sure they did, as you'll see why. Model Stars was described in promotional materials as an all-female business. Now, I know I just said that that person's name is John. I do want to remind you it's a Naomi John, the person you're talking about, the entrepreneur. So that's a woman, so that would make the all-female business thing stick, and then you make the Tates shadow partners. This is also in which women help other women escape the 9-to-5 work schedule and earn life-changing amounts of money. John's job, according to sealed court findings and interviews of women who worked for her, was to help recruit webcam workers and control their profiles on streaming sites. I don't want them to have passwords, Tristan texted John. I want the money to be used by me and you. Fuck them. John directed the women on camera, telling them which positions to adopt and which sex toys to use. She was the brain and I was the looks, one recruit told me. Another worker in her late teens with pink hair and braces was renamed Chloe Skittles and posed in a room with jars of candy above the bed. One of John's first recruits, Abigail Tyson, was working in a bathroom supply store in the struggling English port town of Grimsby when she got an Instagram message from Model Stars. Tyson told me that she spoke to John over Skype and found her really lovely, like a friend that I've known for a long time. The shop paid about £300 a week. John assured her she would earn much more from Model Stars. In Bucharest, Tyson was brought to a house where the brothers were staying with several other women. She'd never had a serious boyfriend, and she was mesmerized by Tristan. I've never met someone who was so intelligent like him, she said. They soon began sleeping together. Tyson proved to be a relentless hard worker, streaming for 17 hours straight and sometimes performing live sex shows with Ruskova. That was their first, that's their bottom bitch over there, for those who don't recall her. That was their OG, the original. Tristan described her in private messages as his main income, adding that after several years, she was still in the dark about how much money her streams made. According to court filings, she went on to earn him close to $1 million. She also bore him a child. Tyson is one of several former workers Tristan put me in touch with, saying that they would vouch for his innocence. Talking to me over Zoom, I got to back up. I was still thinking about the child thing. I do want to make a mention of it. That is weird, because I never really put two and two together there for some fucking reason. I don't know why I did. But anyone who's paid attention to the Tates for any period of time, one of their thing is talking about how they have all these women and they have kids with them. And if anything, they look at life as I'm like a king and they're like my harem. And it's okay that I'm running around and I'm not just with one woman. And I'm still there for my kids. And these are my women that are under. But that right there kind of, I think, really colors more what that. I mean, that sounds bad enough in some ways, but that colors it even more negatively of whoa. They're these are literally your OnlyFans whores you're referring to, and you're trying to justify this as so they're likely probably these chicks they're talking about, all these baby mamas they have and all their kids out there, because they kind of advocate for polygamy and stuff like that, and okay, whatever. This is what they're talking about. They're probably, it's almost certainly referring to, mostly chicks they probably met through their business who are part of their stable of whores. So they then, kind of define as, that's my chick. So they're literally, they have baby mamas. They're out there diddling themselves on camera. when they're making millions and it's taking their money from them. And then they have children with these people, children that are raised to see that as it's just fucking twisted if you really think about it. Just absolutely twisted. And then to try to like switch this around as this is some sort of like men are supposed to be like kings and you have all this women who's like, whoa. Like there's a huge piece of the context missing here. I think most people, Americans, when they hear this, they don't imagine like, oh, you're referring to my stable of OnlyFans whores that are online. No. They're just imagining that you somehow magically just have all this money and here you have like multiple wives or girlfriends or what baby mamas or whatever. And like, you're just able to afford because you're just making so much money from whatever you're doing. Meanwhile, it's them making the money, and it's off of them whoring themselves, and you're making children in this situation. Just completely and utterly twisted. Like there's almost like a dignified way a man could sort of interpret that sort of like lifestyle that they're advertising in their head. But then once you fill in the further blanks of like, wait, you're talking about like literally your OnlyFans whores, your harem, and the children that you have with your harem. This is your family life that you're advocating and trying to act like this is like normal. This is okay. This is a good thing. No, that's fucking insane. That's absolutely insane. All right. Anyways, back to the story. Tyson is one of several former workers Tristan put me in touch with, saying that they would vouch for his innocence, talking to me over Zoom, where a 5-year-old daughter with Tristan played in the background. Tyson told me that Tates were just big, cuddly teddy bears. The other women Tristan recommended also reject the idea that they were victims, but even one of Tate's defenders described Tristan as behaving like a dictator and said that when she tried to leave, he attacked her verbally and hacked her social media accounts. One of his associates threatened to set fire to her car. The Tate's messages show that they repeatedly ordered associates to punish women by hijacking their social media accounts and posting pornographic images of them to their followers. When another worker fled the operation, Tristan told Naomi John to log into her Instagram account and burn it down. Cool. I feel like burning stuff down, John replied. At the peak of the webcam business, the brothers reported they had 75 women working for them. Andrew said that more than 30 women had his name tattooed on their skin. John returned to the UK and established a webcam house for the brothers in Hertfordshire. She couldn't be reached for a comment and is unclear how much she knew about the Tate's recruitment methods. But several women who worked for the operation offer the same theory about her motivations. Obviously, she was benefiting from it. She got her percentage, one said, but I'm pretty sure she was in love with Andrew and trying to please him. At one point, Tate's messages show he recorded a video about only seeing girl part-time but loving her and sent it to 9 women, leading each to believe it was exclusively for her. The names attached to the women's numbers this line include Jackass, Useless, Crazy Bitch, and Naomi. Okay, that's pretty funny. Tate flaunted his glowing wealth on social media and a following coalesced. He showed a gift for pop culture provocation with posts that often went to the top of the trending charts. One of his first viral sensations started with a series of jibes at fans of Star Wars. Everyone who's ever watched Star Wars in human history is absolutely dirt poor, he posted, alongside a photograph of himself on a yacht. Even watching a Star Wars trailer may leave you homeless on the street with AIDS. Tate also taunted vegetarians. Says the soul of dead animals power my massive wang. Lovers of Japanese cuisine. And people who prefer to drink still water. Like, you scared of bubbles, you little bitch. I will admit, they are funny. I will give these guys, they are funny. They make great tweets. I've many a times laughed at a Tate clip. But he's also really gay. His fans looked to him for entertainment, but also for inspiration. Tate projected a credo of masculine excellence that revolved around self-discipline, physical prowess, and mental fortitude. He insisted that depression isn't real and told sufferers to stop complaining and start working out. For young men feeling dejected by the public conversation about toxic masculinity, Tate's celebrations of manhood were galvanizing, and his mocking assaults on feminism felt bracingly irreverent. The reason feminists think men are losers is because the only men that bother to interact with feminists are losers. Yeah, so true. At the height of the Me Too movement, Tate tweeted that women should bear some responsibility for being sexually assaulted. During the controversy that followed, his disdain for women began cohering into a political identity. He appeared on InfoWars and then at CPAC, where he was photographed with Candace Owens, the right-wing television personality Jack Posobiec, and the far-right British politician Nigel Farage. After the 2016 election, Tate had posted a string of pro-MAGA tweets, and he began messaging with Donald Trump Jr. Eventually, he secured an invitation to Trump Tower, That was the first time he had ever had any kind of interaction with anyone that big. His former harem member told me it was like a drug to him. After the visit, he posted a photograph of him in a gold embroidered blazer, clasping hands with a grinning Trump Jr. He wrote, "The Tate family support Trump fully. MAGA." Tate started selling an online course called Network Brilliance, in which he declared, "I have access to the president's son," and claimed to know every big person in politics on the right. Tate's long-standing political connection was to Tommy Robinson, a far-right agitator whose Islamophobic rhetoric and inflammatory claims about Asian sex grooming gangs have stoked violent unrest across several British cities. Robinson also grew up in Luton, and he and Tate knew each other well. Tate was intrigued by one of Robinson's allies, the Canadian activist Lauren Southern. She had become a darling in the manosphere at the age of 19 with a video titled "Why I Am Not a Feminist," in which she argued that men were the real victims of an unjust society. She followed up with a series of videos in which she trolled women who marched against sexual violence, ridiculing their views and holding up a sign, "There is no rape culture in the West." February 2018, Tate asked Robinson to bring Southern to Romania to discuss a business venture. She told me that she flew to Bucharest without knowing much about Tate. Robinson had simply said that a kickboxer in Eastern Europe wanted to finance her work. When they arrived, Tate was waiting in one of his supercars, and he insisted on taking her out for lunch alone. Over steak, he told her everything that you would want to hear as a conservative right-wing woman, talking about the importance of family and praising her work. "You're saving Western civilization," she remembers him saying. After lunch, they headed to Tate's compound. At a long table, Southern listened as the brothers laid out their proposal. They would fund a new right-wing media venture with her and Robinson in charge if she would use it to pump a cryptocurrency they were planning to launch. The idea, she recalls, was basically we're going to create a European nationalist outlet to fleece all these idiots for money. So it's a pump-and-dump crypto scheme. That evening, the Tates took Southern to a club where they ordered bottle service. After a couple shots of vodka, she recalls, "She suddenly felt like my consciousness was collapsing." Tate carried her to his car, where when she came to, they were on the bed at her hotel. Tate started kissing Southern and pulling off her clothes. She told me that she tried to push his hands away, but he wouldn't stop. Then he hooked his arm around her neck and started to squeeze. She remembers thinking, "Oh shit, this guy is actually going to rape me." Southern was anti-abortion and was terrified of getting pregnant. She began pleading with him. "I know what you're going to do here. Please just wear a condom. Please." Southern remembers fading in and out of consciousness as Tate raped her unprotected and choked her. Afterward, he sat on the edge of the bed and said, "Don't tell the press I raped you." Jesus. She remembers saying, "My whole brand is literally talking about how stupid bitches get themselves in situations like this. There's nothing I can say without destroying my career. So congratulations." In the car to the airport, Southern said she discovered burst blood vessels around her eyes and marks on her neck. So he did the choking thing again. Seems to be a very distinct thing with him, which, I mean, whatever. Some people like that in sex, but like that does seem like you're going a little bit nuts with it if you're already getting petechia damn near every time. We have 3 women claiming petechia, which, once again, that's just like where you get the little burst blood vessels, particularly like your eyes. So, you know, your eyes, around your neck. So a lot of power lifters or anyone who does like anything strain. Hell, if you just do like tense your body, you can do it too. It's not like anything insane, but if you're like if you are choking someone again, that's probably on the rougher side. Let's be real. Southern told me that she tried to apply her political convictions to her experience, telling herself that she was at fault for drinking with a man she didn't know. A month later, she texted Tate, "It was really shitty what you did that night in Bucharest." She wrote, "I'm not going to tell anyone, obviously, because I was an absolute moron, but I hope you don't do that to anyone else." "What did I do?" Tate replied. "I expected tons better from you. This message is some liberal Me Too bullshit. You literally strangled me when I said I didn't want to have sex. You literally told me in the morning, 'Don't tell the press I raped you.'" Okay, and then even then, assuming the truth of Southern here, she even asked him to wear a condom, and he wouldn't even do that minor pittance for her. "You're absolutely embarrassing yourself," he wrote. Tate denied raping Southern, but he bragged to the war room about spending the night with her, saying that he invited Romania to discuss a business deal, but didn't invest a fucking penny. Southern came to wonder if his proposal had just been a pretext. She thought back to her confrontations with women protesting sexual violence and felt regret. She told me I knew 100% there was no world in which I spoke about this where I got to retain my status within the right-wing world. For years, she remained silent. 2019, Britain's Crown prosecution. Keep in mind, we have, like, I think 3 rape accusations here, and each one of them have the specific strangling one, and also claim it also had visible petechia that you could see. In 2019, Britain's Crown prosecution informed Tate that he would face no charges from the allegation of rape and strangulation that had caused him to flee the UK. The police had let the case lie dormant. The time conviction rates for reported rapes hovered around 2%. For Tate's accusers, the long wait had been excruciating. We were just so sick of having him in our minds, Maya Navarro told me. It's always there. Him and us needing to go to court and get justice. Finding out that nothing was going to happen was very defeating. The women were not told why it had taken 4 years to decide not to act. But prosecutors did write to all 3 of them, setting out reasons why they were apparently to blame for the collapse of the case. Police officers had searched Navarro's and Walker's phones for anything that might compromise their credibility. Prosecutors noted text messages sent in the months after leaving Tate's apartment in which they talked about feeling hoish and discussed dick sizes. Navarro was baffled. Sorry, are we never allowed to talk about dicks ever again? It's like, I mean, you can rape a whore. Like, I mean, I know it sounds like awful to say, but like, even if you are trying to make out that she's a hoe or whatever, that's an insane thing to be. You're like, but that's like, they're still capable of being raped. That's insane. No matter how promiscuous you are. I guess that's not true. If you're the, well, that's even then, you could still drug them. That would still be rape. So, like, yes, literally, you like, just because someone's super duper promiscuous, it doesn't mean they weren't raped or they can't be raped. So, the letters also cited messages in which the women worried that police would find photographs of them surrounded by wine bottles taken while they were working for the Tates. Navarro had reassured Walker in a voice note, "We can just turn around and say that with the alcohol. They used to get us drunk all the time." Prosecutors appeared to view this as evidence of bad faith. They did not quote the rest of Navarro's message, says, "I needed to be drunk to actually be there because I couldn't take it." In Hannah Price's case, prosecutors made no mention of the message in which Tate had declared, "I love raping you." Because she had slept with Tate again after the initial incident, they concluded that she had no case. Finally, prosecutors know that several women had gone to the police to support Tate's story. One of them had produced a t-shirt reading, "Tate is my daddy and I am his whore," which she claimed belonged to Walker. Navarro told me the t-shirt was actually Haruskova's. She is just blatantly lying, she said. Still, Navarro comforted herself that the investigation had served as a warning to Tate. "I genuinely thought, okay, maybe this has scared him to not ever do this to somebody else," she told me. In fact, the CPS decision was the opposite effect. The strong conquer the weak. Tate texted War remembers, "This is the way of the universe." He started tweeting incessantly about sexual violence. Now, that's projecting is what that is. That is someone who literally lives off of predation, just justifying their behavior. Because while I've said before I'm open to the idea of, like, you know, the prostitution and this sort of thing being legal, it's very clear at this point that, like, he is, even if you want to throw out all the rape stuff, it's very clear, like, the way they talk about it, they are openly, brazenly, happily basically defrauding these women. Like, I don't know what specific, like, agreements, and to be fair, it's their own damn fault, and that, like, none of these guys are getting any of this stuff in writing, I'm sure, but, like, it's almost certain these people are lying to them, telling them you're going to make this money, you're going to get this much of a cut, you're going to this, and then they end up just getting just enough and, you know, having to deal with these guys' bullshit. So at the very least, this is clearly, they're clearly manipulating people. In like a, I don't know, what I would say is borderline criminal, if not flat out criminal. And that's throwing out the sexual assault and the pedophilia stuff. If we just throw that stuff out, just the untoward business happening here, it seems very clearly there is a large level of fraud occurring here to me. Now, I guess we haven't seen like explicit, you know, example that I can think of, but anyways, going on. In fact, okay, anyways, on to his whole strong little spiel. So he started tweeting incessantly about sexual violence. "Only time you can beat her up without going to jail is during sex," he wrote. "I have big hands because I was bred for violence, like an attack dog. Do you understand?" Tate went on to start Hustlers University, making tens of millions of dollars a year in subscription fees. He launched a podcast, Tate Speech, and an online show, Tate Confidential. He appeared on dozens of other manosphere and far-right shows. Suddenly, his face and voice were everywhere. Then Tate started openly taunting his accusers. In one interview, he addressed Walker. "I kept you for the money," he said. You weren't all that, but you made me enough. You put the leather in the Ferrari, bitch, and now you're sitting there broke as a joke. I'm still free. So even more to my point about the defrauding here. So like they screw these women. And with that, even with the money side of things, I'm completely open to the theory that these are women conspiring against these guys, because it's like, and once again, if you throw away all the you assume that none of that's true, all the sexual violence and whatever, it's like, well, he did defraud the absolute fuck out of these women. And like, I totally get why they would be jilted and be like, well, we would like to get some sort of come up here. That doesn't make it right, but it's like, okay, but why are these bitches scamming you? I mean, obviously there's many crazy women out here that just be scheming, but it's like, well, it seems like you defrauded the absolute fuck out of these women. The women watching horror, seeing him all the time, having him come back in my life unconsensually. Navarro said that really pushed me to the edge. Tate's most prized project was the War Room. Andrew billed it as the most powerful network of men in the world, but mainly it was a series of group chats in which members learned how to make money by exploiting women. New entrants were inducted in the main group, the Great Hall, by an account called the Master of Scrolls and Decorum. They were sent a list of required reading known as Survival Scrolls, which included Ken Ivy's Pimpology. Tate's pimping hose degree source was the core of the curriculum. Some women are more susceptible to being molded, Tate told pupils. To gauge a woman's malleability, members were taught to discuss her harshly after sex and the demand an act of service, buying coffee or chocolate, cooking a meal. If she complied, she was through to the next level. Once students had found a susceptible target, they were encouraged to move up to the webcam and OnlyFans courses, where they learned methods that the Tates had honed over the years. Tates filmed the OnlyFans course from a leather chair in his compound's cigar lounge. Beside him sat Haruskova, whom he introduced as my not-so-beautiful assistant. All right, these things are awful, but they are like so ridiculous that they are kind of funny sometimes. She perched on her chair in a black turtleneck and a pleated skirt, blank face, and fidgeting slightly as he denigrated women. Girls are fantastically lazy. Girls have something wrong with them in their brain. Okay, these are dumb, but just like imagining in my mind, he's doing this like in a leather chair as his whore is next to him, and he's like delivering. She just has to like sit here, blank face. It's just kind of funny to me. Not a necessarily a nice thing to do, but it is at least absurd. Tate was assisted in his teachings by Tristan and several other associates whom he called the War Room Generals. Chief among them was a California-based hypnotist named Miles Sonkin, who went by the alias Iggy Semmelweis. Sonkin billed himself as an expert in neuro-linguistic programming and cultivated a mystical effect with a ponderous gray beard. In promotional videos, he appeared in a fedora and a cape. Oh, okay, a fedora guy here. Shooting rings of animated fire from his hands. His main role was to advise on how to hypnotize women into sexual slavery. Yeah, you'd be surprised, men, or women, but that man is drowning. That man is drowning in pussy. The guy with a fedora and a cape shooting rings of animated fire from his hand online. So he hypnotized these women by uttering incantations during sex, a process he called installing spells. Through his teachings, he said members could keep women soul-locked. Tate leaned into Sonkin's pseudoscientific lexicon. He spoke about getting women to self-hypnotize by demanding that they write him pledges of devotion and shared screenshots of some that he'd received. One woman begged for the honor of being your slave to serve you and worship you like you deserve, like a king, like a god, he told War Room members. This is a level of locked I enjoy. Anything else is boring. The chat logs were obtained by the independent journalist named Nick Monroe, who shared them with me. Once again, to come back to like, what am I, psychologizing, I guess, Tate here. He describes this life he leads and how cool he is. And it's like, that actually sounds awful. Like, maybe for like a day, that'd be cool if your broad is like all up your ass and just like, annoyingly, like worshipingly in love with you. Or like slavishly in love with you, but that would get really old. And that's not at all to say that like, men like to be treated. I mean, like any other guy, I love if my lady is like, doing all the things, like, what I mean? Like we like that. But like this, the level of servitude he's describing would be annoying. I don't know. I have this thing that, I think most decent men have this thing called like humility. And I feel like it would get like annoying and like, Stop. I can get my own like little minor things like send the table or cooking dinner or, taking care of your man. Those are good. But like the level that he's describing, and then especially when you take into account that he's talking about this from numerous women at all times, I don't know. I couldn't stand it. Like just being surrounded by people just sucking my ass like that, it'd be awful. I don't know. War Room members from around the world met at summits to compare notes. In LA, attendees were promised an evening tutorials, including installing spells and sexual magic, accompanied by the best grass-fed steaks grilled to perfection on outdoor grill, fine-aged whiskey, smoking Cuban and Emperador cigars. Another summit was arranged in a turreted castle in the mountains of Transylvania. Pizzagate conspiracist Mike Cernovich was a member, as was the far-right lobbyist Jacob Wohl, who bragged about supplying women to U.S. politicians, claiming that these men will always want to win your good graces and hope that you might toss them a girl or two. Wall was later convicted of running a voter suppression scheme targeting black neighborhoods during the 2020 election. The Tates shared receipts of the women they'd cultivated, often including intimate photographs. Over time, their recruitment efforts became more brazen. They began reaching out to high schoolers and hosted parties for teenage girls at their compound. Andrew shared a video of one such event with a War Room. 16-year-old hoes are all over the house, he wrote, adding, more girls equals more money. What the is there any... I haven't seen any denials of this. I haven't even seen this online or any denials. That's wild. If he's legitimately... I mean, I'm assuming the legality is probably different over there, wherever this was at. Tristan documents scores of conquests, some of whom he said were teenagers and virgins. One was wearing a school uniform. He wrote about another inexperienced as she was. It caused her a lot of discomfort. Jesus Christ. Among the most vivid tutorials offered at the War Room was a play-by-play account about Andrew Tate recruited Yasma Penkov, the former psychology student. They had met in her hometown of Timisoara, and Tate spent weeks love-bombing her over WhatsApp. When she arrived to the compound, though, he wasn't there. Instead, he had deputized a blonde woman named Beatrice Angel to greet her. Angel was a former producer for Romanian TV who had switched to online sex work after falling in love with Tate. He had texted her an assessment of Penkov. She's very dumb, but will be good on camera. The Tates were now keeping many of their workers in American Village, the development beside their compound. Penkov was instructed to take her bags to Villa 67, where she would live with Angel. Tate showed War Room members screenshots of his text with both women, explaining that he had told Angel he loved her and that Penkov was just for cam, while telling Penkov the same thing about Angel. They are both spying on each other, he wrote, with a crying, laughing emoji. And when I'm home, I'll just fuck them both and make them work. Both women declined to speak, but they disputed this account through their attorney. In the next few weeks, Tate reported that Penkov had lost her support networks at home and was talking about staying forever. But when he insisted that she started making pornography, she was less pliable than he had hoped. He turned to a trusted strategy, inventing a reason to get angry so he could tighten the screw. Tate accused Penkov of having worked in a sex club back in Timisoara. I literally totally made this up from the sky, he told the War Room, started calling a liar and threatening to kick her out. Penkov was horrified by the accusation. I'm freaking crying alone in my room, she texted him. I've left everything and everyone behind, he replied. You're never going back to Timisoara even to visit. Adding, we are together always. Yeah, this is just fucking awful. And that's got, I mean, I don't know. That's pretty fucking, that's like fraud. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what it's, just fucking awful. In the War Room, Miles sunk and urged members to look closely at what Tate has done here, knowing that he was taking sole authority over her life. When Penkov texted Tate that her Christian faith prohibited her from making porn, he wrote to the group, this is about the maximum difficulty that you experience. This is insane. This is crazy. And this is all like documented and being like, oh, this is where she was like, well, I can't because I'm Christian. And this is where I pulled out this trick. Like, holy fucking shit. He says, this is about the maximum difficulty that you experience in the business. If she didn't crack within a few days, he said, he'd kick her out. Then Tate surveyed the chessboard. He knew that Penkov was running out of cash. She's broke, he wrote, and she can't leave the house. This gave her no negotiating room, he reasoned. If there's no goodbye, there's only comply. It's just nuts. The next move was for Tate to distance himself from the notion of webcam work. He texted Penkov that he didn't want her to think they'd moved her to Bucharest to make porn for him. I don't need girls to work for me. I have plenty of my own money, he said. She wrote back, this literally made me cry. Then he noted there was a way she could make money of her own. A Romanian woman named Georgiana Nagel was running an OnlyFans operation, her business of. Okay, I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh, but like, so he tells her like, he gives her a sob story of like, oh, I don't want you to think I brought you only over just to make porn for me. I don't need that. And then he goes, well, I'll just have you work for my friend Georgiana doing porn. In fact, Nagel had been working for the Tates for several years, so even then they worked for a former hostess at cage fighting galas. She was tall with an air of sleek severity. Tate thought she'd resembled Cruella de Vil and called her his very own full-time witch. He wrote to her about Penkov, get her on OnlyFans. I want money from her. Then he told Nagel to send him messages about how much money could be made from porn, which he passed on to Penkov. Penkov wrote back, I don't know what to say. I've never done anything like this before. Tate noted the war room. This is a very soft rejection. Then he went for a hard close, telling Penkov that webcam work was the only job that he would allow her to do. A normal job puts men all around you, he said. Wow, what an insane way to sell. Okay, you sure you want me to do this, she asked. I want to believe you're serious about us, he said. We're either together, always working as a team, or we're not. Members of the war room followed along in delight. It's all a beautiful, beautiful game of chess, one wrote. Song can identify the mind games Tate was using. Seven different reframes in a play and a shit ton of presuppositions. At least 2 undermines and a bunch of... What a fucking pretentious gay way to talk about this. Like, I notice all these things, but to act like, oh, Jolly, what a great chess move. I don't feel like these are astounding. You don't have to have that high of a level of IQ to know that these are like tricks that you could use to manipulate women. I don't know. You just don't, because that's just, for one, who wants to live like that, and like also that's fucking awful. Congrats, you were able to manipulate a human being. It's not that astounding, particularly a young dumb woman. Penkov texted Tate once more before capitulating, and keep in mind these are young dumb women that they've scoped out, so even then they're looking for a dumb one to manipulate. So I don't know, it's just so pretentious. They're just so up their own asses here. It's ridiculous. He once texted Tate once more before capitulating. I don't ever sit around and feel sorry for myself, nor let people mistreat me, she wrote. I'm a badass with a good heart, soft but strong, but only people that deserve to see this part of me. Forwarding this to War Room, Tate wrote, women talk so much bullshit, it's incredible. Nagel reported that Penkov started posting for OnlyFans within 4 days of vowing that she would never make porn. Next, Tate demanded that she have a threesome with him and Angel, and she agreed. Angel texted a friend that Penkov had told her beforehand that she was afraid that during sex, Tate had hit her, spat in her face, and called her a whore. But Tate also told Penkov privately that she was his wife forever and that he loved her. It's so hard to believe, she wrote back. I've never been loved this much before. Within a couple years of launching the War Room, Tate reported at least 140 students were making money from pornography. Everyone in here is banking 10 to 15K extra a month, he wrote. Members shared screenshots of women they recruited. Fucking cash waterfalls, one wrote. Another, who called himself a god amongst men, talked about scouring college campuses across San Diego for women to smash and then recruit. He was hoping to get to millionaire status this year. All right, we'll pause it there. Maybe come back to this tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Monday or next week, assuming I'm here the Monday, or whenever we do another dump, do another one of these. Unless you guys are just bored with it, I'm continually, every episode, more and more astounded, more intrigued of what the absolute fuck is going on over here, and how the fuck is this been allowed to go on, but whatever. But with that, let's roll into the chat, checking on you guys, see what you guys say. It's been a minute, but yeah, let's get in there. Blue Man's for Trades. Good morning to you. Says, what's up, Jose? Keep rolling with a deep dive on Tate. Tate always seems sus. Any surprise Candace was trying to rebuild his public image? Probably not. Yeah, exactly. She was one of the ones coming in trying to rebuild his public image, which she just did for Hunter Biden too, which I have some bookmarks on that. Maybe a segment on that next week or something. But yeah, she's definitely sus, and she's done this more than one times. Marty Mac said, Tates are fags, girls are whores, a true love story. Yep. Good morning, Fire Pixie. Good morning. Good morning, Murray. Says Tate is another Jim Jones. He will walk. Well, I don't think he's currently even being charged for anything. So yeah, he will walk. I don't necessarily expect him to get busted for anything anytime soon. Although These are some crazy accusations, but they are all over the place, and the degree to which like they are actually prosecutable or probably vary. So I don't see anything happen to him soon. Marmax saying, I don't believe her. I'm sure Andrew's a total scumbag in his way of chicks, but I'm pretty sure they're all for it. I'm not sure which one of these ones you were talking about, but yeah, I know that's kind of my point. Like, I don't know. I guess even it's kind of similar to like how we were talking about the Epstein stuff. Like, even if it's not true, then you kind of have to wonder like, well, what's going on here? Like, I mean, I wouldn't be least surprised if there's jilted women, but then you kind of wonder like, well, why are all these women jilted? What the fuck are you doing? And it looks like he's defrauding the absolute fuck out of these women. So, kind of get it. Good morning, Marty McFly. Good morning. Good morning. Fire Pixie says, I'm going to go watch some cartel videos to feel better. Yeah, some awful stuff in here for sure. Good morning, King David. Just hit that like button and subscribe to our homie Jose. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Help a brother out. Hit that like button as you're coming in here, as you're leaving. If you're watching us on the replay, do all the things. If you want to support the show in the best way you can do that with money. Or actually, I'm retarded. I fucked up my script. Like, share, subscribe, comment. 5-star reviews, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. You can find this on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, Twitter as well. On Twitter, that's at TowerGangJose. Everywhere else, it's just No Way Jose, the No Way Jose podcast. And if you want to support me with money or support me the best way you can, I don't know what's going on with my words today. Then you can do that with money over at patreon.com. So it's No Way Jose 2020. It's up there in the top left-hand corner. We got a little QR code you can use, bring you the same place as that URL. And at the low level of $2, you get access to a whole host of perks. I give you guys access to 1 to 2 episodes per week. I just did another Years of Lead episode. It was an absolute banger last night. I had an episode with Austin earlier this week. Did a little bit of a weekly Wolfson, and then we had to cancel it because his internet went out. So we'll have to redo that some other time. But either way, you got at least 2 this week. You were supposed to get 3. I try to keep 3 to 4 behind the paywall at any given time. Give you guys access to ad-free RSS feed. Give you guys access to Telegram, the pre-show, the post-show, the video calls. The video calls on me and Austin's weekly live call-in show Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. I also get a big shout out the highest level of my sponsor, or highest level of my Patreon. Those are my sponsors. As a big thank you for their support. On my previous host and Tower Gang at Leonard Toad, also at Brigade D's, at ZVCK, at _ the Zeal, Tim Tull, at John Klebold, big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Tackus, when I cover kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, Jacob Wintergrad of the Biblical Energy Podcast, and John Black, that beautiful bastard. And with that, guys, enjoy this outro. Another kitty cat doggy video. Guys, tag me and stuff. Reminder, you guys contribute to the show. You guys are the production team for this show, and all you gotta do to do that is when you're on Twitter, just tag me at Tower Gang Jose. If it's something you feel like, hey, this is a funny video, something to be fun for an outro, or something that makes sense as an introductory story to cover, or just something more serious, whatever. Feel free to tag me. With that, I'm running low on funny, cute videos, but here is one funny, cute video. Here's cats versus dogs. We'll see you in the next one. Love you all. Bye-bye.
What a tease.
Evet, pirelerimi kardeşimin üstüne dökeyim.
Oh no!
So, I'll find that footage. We'll grab him up and go find Nolan before Straight does.
Come on. It's okay. It's just a kitty. See?
Ziggler makes it back to his feet. Is he going to deliver sweet?
Love you, puppy. Yeah.
Get your toy. Get your toy.
Oh, shit.